My name is Abdullah El Talib Mosi Bey, and this is my newly released book, The Masonic Compass Square and the Connection to Timekeeping, the connection to measurement and timekeeping. Now, what I do, the concept of masonry, people's perception of masonry has been distorted because of social engineering. That it would be social engineering done by Europeans and some social engineering, a misrepresentation of what it really is. Masonry has been misrepresented as they call satanic worship, and I'll explain that. Devil worship, the misconcept of the Illuminati. Masonry's been, so there, and then those who are involved in Masonic orders, their view, most of people's view, that being Eastern Stars and Masons, view of Masonry is that it's a beautiful system of allegory expressed through symbolism. So they view, the brothers have been indoctrinated to view astronomical measurement tools and devices as symbols. So they're locked into this symbol concept, whereby they wear it on their t-shirts or hats, buy bags, jackets. You'll see different astronomical measurement devices dealing with math and astronomy on back of people's cars. So there's no function, there's no concept of its function in everyday civilization, everyday life, and planting and harvesting and navigating ships and timekeeping and map making. There's no relationship to that. They'll say, oh, that's a Masonic symbol. For example, this here, you'll see this on what they call many Masonic buildings. Every Masonic building would have a compass square. This is not a mere symbol. This has a function in civilization. This is a bow compass. So that's we have a navigation compass and a bow compass. So there's a difference. A navigation compass is one would use to, if they were finding their location, north, south, east, west. That's a navigating compass. A boat, you don't use that. You don't use that compass, this compass, for that. This is a bow compass, B-O-W. The bow compass, some of you who are listening to me may have used in math classes for drawing circles. That's what this is. It's a bow compass. So is this a symbol that you put on a car? That you put on a building? It has a function. This is a plummet square for measuring right angles. It's a plummet square. So it's not something that you just put on a car, on a t-shirt, and say that's a Masonic symbol. You're not allowed to have that. Are you a Mason? Well, this is the bow compass. So you see the misrepresentation that's out there about Masonry? And I just want to keep it plain. Now, so this is what my book is about. I explain the cultural function of what they call Masonic symbols. Now, let me explain the misrepresentation of Masonry. Masonry has been presented as, some people present Masonry as devil worship. And let me explain. Masonry is devil worship. Let me explain that, what I mean by that. The concept of the devil, that gory looking, grotesque, fire breathing, horns, looking goat image is a distortion of an ancient fertility symbol that represents the moon. The goat or the bull was used because of the crescent-shaped horns. The Europeans distorted that goat and made it gory and misrepresented it as the cause of the world's evil. It represents the moon calendar, woman, fertility, and power. You see what they did? They took that which is sacred, that we saw as powerful, connected to the moon, and distorted it. So every 28 days, let's look at the moon cycle. Every 28 days, the moon revolves around the earth. You know that the moon pulls the tides. So if it has the power to pull the tides in the ocean, what do you think it has an effect on it would have an effect on our body? Because we're on 90% water. The word menstruation and month are derived from the word moon. So every 28 days, the moon governs the woman's menstrual cycle. That's why it's 28 days. See that 28-day connection. So the reason why the Europeans have misrepresented the goat as something evil and a cause to the world's bad deeds is because they were suppressing the ancient knowledge of the moon and its natural connection to woman. Women are actual walking lunar calendars as the moon governs their menstrual cycles. So this is what I mean by masonry being devil worship, as the devil is a misrepresentation of the goat, which is a symbol of the ancient fertility symbol representing the moon, woman, and power. So you have the misconception that of the word Illuminati. You know, people like Beyonce and Jay-Z and Kanye West and other rappers, you know, the misrepresentation that they're part of the Illuminati and that the Illuminati is something bad or evil, and that's been misrepresented. The word Illuminati, lum is the root word, which means shine. The il is the prefix, means upon, shine upon. So it deals with the enlightenment of the mind. The sunlight, the sun stimulates the serotonin and melatonin in the brain. The third eye, you have the 33-degree Masons. They use the double-headed eagle. And the double-headed eagle, within the middle, the double-headed eagle represents the right and left hemisphere of the brain. And the right and left hemisphere of the brain is the pineal gland. That is your third eye. That is the eye that's on the back of what they call the $1 bill, which is not a $1 bill, which represented as a $1 bill. It's a one note. As a dollar is a silver coin, silver or gold coin. So looking at that. Then you have what's coming up. We just finished coming out of Halloween. Halloween is the celebration of the harvest. Now the pumpkin was used as symbolic of the orange full moon. During that time period, the moon appears to be orange. That's why the pumpkin was used. Now there's a major holiday coming up. You have Thanksgiving and you have Christmas. And I'm going to be explaining the astronomical meaning of Christmas. Now in Masonry, there are two pillars called Boaz and Jachin. The two pillars of Boaz and Jachin. And what that represents, on page 67, I have here, and I'll have another better image of it. of the two pillars. All right, also on page 78 of my book, you have these two pillars that you see in masonry called the two pillars of Boaz and Joachim. And this knowledge, the knowledge that these represent, were known throughout the world. These are they represent two astronomical markers where the sun is at its two extreme points. June 21st in the northern hemisphere, the sun is at an extreme point, northerly point. That's called the summer solstice. On December 21st, the sun is at its lowest point of declination, called the winter solstice. Our ancestors charted those extreme points of the apparent motion of the sun thousands of years ago, and this knowledge was worldwide. The Europeans have preserved this knowledge in Masonic orders, and they call it the two pillars of Boaz and Joachim. But once again, as I said before, they've been misrepresented as just mere symbols, Masonic symbols. You know, you're not allowed to, wear that on a t-shirt unless you're a Mason, So that knowledge, once again, of its astronomical function has been suppressed. So the brothers who are part of the orders do not see it as astronomical markers. They see it as mere symbols. In fact, I remember when I was at the class in New York, and I had spoken on the two pillars of Boaz and Joachim. And after the end of the class, a brother who was a Mason approached me. He said, "Man, I was sworn a secret not to reveal the names of the two pillars, but I didn't know the significance of it." Let me say it again. He said he was sworn the secret not to reveal the two names of the two pillars, but he did not know the significance of it. Let that sink in your head. He thought he had knowledge. Because he was told the names, he thought that represented knowledge, only to admit to me that he didn't know the significance of it. They're playing them. Because you're giving an oath. Because you made, an oath or sworn a secret, you're thinking that you're getting something that's sublime and, you're special and important. But he didn't know the significance of it. So what did he really know about it? Knowing names of, being able to identify a name of something is one thing. That's important. So I'm not going to, negate the importance of that. But if you don't know the significance of it, are you more advanced than someone who doesn't know the names? How are you more advanced than someone who don't know the names? You know the names and they don't know names. But you don't know the significance of it. What's the difference? You're not more advanced. So I told the class, he actually repeated that to the class. Class had ended. And now at Philadelphia, William Penn, most people who live at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, there's City Hall, Philadelphia City Hall. There's a statue of William Penn at the top of the building. William Penn is facing northeast. Why is William Penn facing northeast? The summer solstice sun, which is the summer solstice, once again, is June 21st in the northern hemisphere, rises in the northeast. What they do in the masonry, there's the biggest celebration in all of masonry is called the St. John's the Baptist celebration, which is June 24th. June 21st, June 24th. June 20th, which is actually the celebration of the summer solstice. They have a ritual called the cornerstone, raising the cornerstone ritual. So they lower the cornerstone symbolically in the northeast. Now, once again, see the connection of northeast, the summer solstice sun in the northeast. A lot of the brothers who go through that ritual or ceremony don't know that connection. they see it as merely a Masonic ceremony. Once again, the premise representation of masonry as a system of symbols. It's not symbolism. It has an astronomical function for civilization building. It doesn't belong in a lodge. This knowledge was known as a society, not in a lodge. And once again, it's not taught in lodges like that. It's taught, though there's a few people who know this, but as far as the large numbers in the lodge orders, absolutely not. So now we're going to lead into, I'm going to explain a very important holiday that's coming up called Christmas. And I'm going to show its connection to the summer solstice. December 21st is the other pillar. So you have the pillar of Boaz, which is representing of the summer solstice, and the pillar of Joachim, which is the winter solstice. Stonehenge, which is in England. Stonehenge, there are thousands of Europeans who visit Stonehenge on December 21st. The Stonehenge, they mark the summer solstice and winter solstice points. You can actually see the sun rising right between these you got the pillars over here representing the summer solstice and the pillars representing the winter solstice. You actually see the sun in between those 2 points every year, right aligned. The astronomical markers, and these markers were built all over the world. So I'm going to lead up to Christmas. So what occurs on June 21st is that the sun is at its highest point, and that is the longest day of the year. Its sun appears to stand still, because solstice means sun, sol means sun, sti, the root word, means stand. So the apparent motion of the sun is being its highest point. All right, can't go any higher. Stand still, hovers for 3 days. At that point, the days begin to get shorter. Every 7 days, from June 21st to December 20th, days are getting shorter. For a period of 7 days, every 7 days, the days are getting shorter by 10 to 12 minutes. 10 to 12 minutes. This knowledge was known worldwide. We mark the points of time. So now you have a shift where the days are getting shorter and when the points of days are getting longer. This knowledge was celebrated, marked worldwide. So now we continue through July. Days are getting shorter. Continuing to getting shorter. Every 7 days, 10 to 12 minutes. Throughout August, 7 days, 10 to 12 minutes. Days are getting shorter. South September, days are getting shorter. Now, what's called the autumnal equinox. September 23rd, where you have 12 hours and 12 hours a day and 12 hours a night. This would be about 11 hours and 40 minutes, 12 hours and 40 minutes of daytime, and 11 hours, 20 minutes of night. And you can see, people notice these things, but don't know the astronomy of it. There's something they see, oh man, it's gonna be getting dark out soon earlier. Man, when I leave work, when I used to leave work at 5 o'clock, it was light. Now I leave work at 5 o'clock, it's dark. What happens? what happens that occurs? This is an astronomical phenomenon that occurs. But I say, these things that we observe, but we don't attribute it, we don't know the astronomical phenomenon. We don't know that it's called the winter solstice or summer solstice. We don't relate the two pillars of Boaz and Jachin to that. We don't relate that to the cultural knowledge of timekeeping and measurement. It's just, I leave work in the summertime, at 5 o'clock, it's light out. Winter time, they work at 5 o'clock, it's dark out. And then you hear people say that. People say it all the time. So I'm explaining the astronomical phenomenon that is occurring and tying it into what they're referring to as Masonic symbols, Masonic celebrations. Once again, the biggest ceremony in all of Masonry is St. John the Baptist Day, which is June 24th. And that is celebrated in many European countries. That is the celebration of the summer solstice. And that's so once again, William Penn is an observatory. So William Penn facing northeast. So you can see the summer solstice sun rising on William Penn's face because in the observatory. And his back is the northeast. So the sun rises in the northwest. The sun rises in the northeast in the June 21st, sets in the northwest. So this knowledge being known. So let's continue. The days getting shorter, continue to get shorter throughout November. Then you have December, the first week of December, continue to get shorter. Second week of December, continue to get shorter. On December 20, 2017, and this is in my book here, I have the sunrise. You can go look at the sunrise and sunset charts. You can Google the sunrise and sunset charts, and you'll see. This is on page 88. We have the sunrise and sunset charts. On December 22nd, the sun rises. This is 2017. 2017, the sun rose on 7:19 a.m. The sun set at 4:39 p.m. The length of the day was 9 hours and 20 minutes and 3 seconds. December 23rd, the sunrise, 7:19 a.m., sunset 7:40 p.m., length of the day, 9 hours, 20 minutes and 8 seconds. December 20th, the length of the day on December 20th, 2017, was 9 hours and 20 minutes and 3 seconds. There's a minus 6 seconds difference. So let's so people you can clearly see. So let's look at this. December 1st, 2017, length of the day, 9 hours 32 minutes and 39 seconds. That's a negative minus 1 minute 15 seconds. December 2nd, length of day, 9 hours, 31 minutes, 27 seconds. Difference, minus 1 minute, 12 seconds. Let's go to December 7th, length of day, 9 hours, 26 minutes, and 18 seconds. So it's still getting shorter. Difference, 56 seconds. December 14th, length of day, 9 hours, 21 minutes, and 37 seconds. This is page 84. Page 84. December 14th, length of day, 9 hours, 21 minutes, and 37 seconds. Difference is 28 seconds, a negative 28 seconds. December 18th, length of day, 9 hours, 20 minutes, 18 seconds. Difference, minus 14 seconds. December 20th, length of day, 9 hours, 20 minutes, and 3 seconds. Difference, negative 6 seconds. So now, December 22nd is when you have a plus. So there's a 3 second increase from December 20th, December 21st. There's a negative 3 seconds. And then on December 22nd, there's a 3 second increase. So once again, that's the marker where the days are getting longer now. You went from decreasing, incremental, continual decreasing, and then December 22nd, there's a increase by 3 seconds. And that from that day on, from 7 days, from December 22nd, 7 days, there's a 10 to 12 minute increase every 7 days. This knowledge was known throughout the world. Christmas is the rebirth of the sun. Has nothing, Christmas, I'm talking the astronomy of it. The rebirth of the sun is not man-made. It's an astronomical phenomenon that we observed. We mark the time where the sun is reborn again. Once again, June 21st, sun is at its highest point. It's furthest north of the horizon. It rises highest in the sky. December 21st, the sun is at its death. Its lowest point, rises the lowest point. It's the shortest day of the year. The June 21st is the longest day of the year. December 21st is the shortest day of the year. And the sun is what rises lowest in the sky. So look at these points here. Now you have these, the summer solstice sun is lowest in the sky. The sun, winter solstice sun is lowest in the sky. The summer solstice sun is highest in the sky. And the spring and equinox is at its midpoint. That's when the sun is on the, there's 2 points where the sun crosses the equator. The sun crosses the equator on March 21st, called the vernal equinox. And the sun crosses the equator at the autumnal equinox, which is September 23rd in the northern hemisphere. There's 2 points where the sun is at its outer lip, its extreme points. That's the summer solstice and winter solstice. And our ancestors marked these. The sign of the cross is symbolic of those 4 points that was known worldwide. The point where the sun crosses the equator, and the points where the sun is at its extreme points. Extreme points, and then what? Begins moving back. So it's at extreme northerly point, June 21st, just reviewing. And then begins to descend south. At the extreme southerly point, December 21st, it begins to ascend. Jesus rising again from the dead. So the concept of the story of Jesus dying on the cross, buried in the tomb for 3 days, rising again after 3 days. That's an astronomical phenomenon. And that same story is told all over the world. What the Europeans did was co-opted it They transliterated the name Jesus from the Egyptian form, Phoenician, Babylonian, and Chaldean, the IA, IU, IO, IE. Those are bilateral root systems, forms of the name Jesus. They didn't make the name Jesus up, they transliterated it. IO, IU, IE, and IA, Phoenician, Babylonian, Egyptian, and Chaldean form of the name Jesus. This same story, you have Mithra, Buddha, Confucius, Dionysus. These are the same deities, sun deities, were known throughout the world. It's the same story. So this concept, and also Krishna, the word Christ is Kras and Krishna. So this whole concept of that Christmas is a European holiday. Most of the people, because of your social engineering, they'll say white man's holiday. And so we gotta have our own holiday. Black people, so Moors are classified as black, Negro colored, Latino, Spanish, Puerto Rican. And they'll say, well, because of European social engineering and the classification of our people being branded black, our people thinking they're black. So people say, well, black people need their own holiday. And they'll refer to Kwanzaa as black people holiday. And like I said, once again, Moors are not black. They've been classified in the United States Census Bureau as black, Negro, colored, African American, Latino, Spanish, Puerto Rican, and Indian, West Indian. So I want to just clarify that point. Now, Malala Karenga, let me even first start off, say this. There's a 2-volume book written by Barry Shingle. Barry Shingle, the title of the book is European Holidays and African People's Mental Genocide. European Holidays and African People's Mental Genocide. Now, what is distorted about the title is distorted because Barry Shingle referred to the holidays as European holidays. What I'm explaining is that the holidays, I'm explaining particularly Christmas, and I'll go later on another viewing, going to other holidays. But Christmas is astronomical. It's not man-made. It's an observation of an astronomical phenomenon of the rebirth of the sun, as I explained. This knowledge needs to be known by our people. Barry Shingle, I don't know the limit. I didn't know the expansion of his knowledge. It's evident that he didn't know the astronomical origin of Christmas or the holidays, because he referred to them as European holidays. If Barry Shingle had known what I know, the astronomical origin of the holidays, and that we are the ones that charted them for civilization building, for calendar making, for harvesting, for planting and harvesting, for navigational purposes. If Barry Shingle had known that, he would have never written a book contributing the holidays to the Europeans. The title is a clear indication that he did not know this. Once again, the title of his book, 2 volumes, European Holidays and African People's Mental Genocide. What causes the mental genocide in our people is Barry Shingle and others referring to them, the holidays, as Europeans. That creates the mental genocide. That's one. What also creates the mental genocide is the Europeanization of the images. We see these Christmas shows. So we see European figures. Santa Claus, and which is actually Saint Maurice. The character Santa Claus is a character based off a life of a man who lived in the 1300s in Switzerland, and today he is known as the patron saint of all of Germany. One who's darker than me is the patron saint of the entire country of Germany. His name is Saint Maurice. He was a philanthropist. So the character of Santa Claus is based off his life. There should be someone to look like me. There should be no European Santa Clauses. I know there's no European, they gonna take their children to no malls and sit on my lap. I know that. I'm talking about in truth. I know Europeans are not gonna take their children to malls all over the country and have them sitting on a man's lap that look like me. I know that. I'm talking the truth though. There should not be, it's not a prejudice thing. It's not a prejudice thing. It's a truth issue. It's based off a real man. There should be no European Santa Clauses. European children should be sitting on my lap in malls. Somebody look like me. But what happens? Our children sit on European males' laps. European children sitting on European males' laps. They're misrepresented. That's a misrepresentation. It's not made up. Santa Claus is not some made up. We going, all right? It's based off the life of a real man, Saint Maurice. That's who they're patterned off. Now it's also, you have the suit that they wear is a shaman suit. The shaman wear that suit with black boots, and they go out and pick out the mascara mushrooms. The red and white mushrooms, which is high in hallucinogenics. So the shamans enter the house through the chimney. So these are actual accounts. These not made up stories. It's not a made up outfit. That's a shaman outfit. And the candy canes are the representative of the red and white mushrooms. The stockings are representative of the red and white mushroom, because the shamans would dry out the mushrooms on the mantle. So they're actual accounts. But because you don't know the origin, we think it's some European holiday that they made up. They didn't make anything up. It's actual truth. It's not made up. It's that we don't know the origin of it. So therefore, just relegated to some made-up story that the Europeans did, and this is their holiday. You see the damage of that title, European holidays, and African people meant to genocide. Something that we celebrated, as far as the celebration, the gift giving, decorating the tree, the star, which is Venus, the Sirius. Based in astronomy, we contributing that to Europeans and say, December 26th is my holiday, so I don't deal with that white man Christmas stuff. I'm African. I gotta have my own. I celebrate Kwanzaa. Now I say this, Maulana Karenga. I've never heard Maulana Karenga say, nor did I read, that he developed Kwanzaa as a substitute for Christmas. I never heard him say that, nor did I read that. However, I have heard hundreds of people over the period of 20, 30 years say that they use Kwanzaa as a substitute for Christmas. Now, that's quite logical, because it's the day after. December 25th, December 26th. It's the day after. Not knowing that Christmas is Christmas is an African holiday. Christmas is an African holiday. Once again, it's based in astronomy. I'm going to go sticking heavily on the astronomy. Why? To get people out of this worshiping mentality. This mere idol worshiping mentality. We got to get them to math and science. The only way to get our people out of the idol worshiping mentality, we have to restore the math and the science of it. If you're not going to do that, therefore will forever be subjugated to the idol worshiping of it. And only the math and the astronomy is going to get them out of it, because that's the epistemology, which is the branch in philosophy that deals with how one knows knowledge. Go back to the origin of it. What is the epistemology? The astronomy, charting when the sun is at its lowest point, because you want to see so that the sun is what? You're charting when the sun is going to be born. So you're charting and calculating for seasonal changes. It's important that we charted the seasonal changes, knowing when to harvest and when to plant and when to harvest. We did that for our survival. This was known throughout the societies, not known just by a few. This was common day. Something that doesn't have to be taught in schools. Why? You don't need to teach in schools, because it's something that's known, that's taught at home, that you just do. It's just something that's known, that's done. That you see your mother doing it, and 10 people across the street doing it. This was known. You have your sunstone circles. That marks the sunstone circles have 4 openings. Once again, the sign of the cross. It's not a European thing. The sign of the cross is emblematic of the 4 seasons. There are sunstone circles. All right? They're called the sunstone circle. Example of a sunstone circle. Let's go to this page. Page 73. In Masonry, this is known as the point within a circle. Now this is ancient. This is a sun. This image here represents Ra, the glyph for Ra, what they call the quote unquote Egyptian sun god. That's what that point within the circle. Now it's also emblematic. Now you see here on page 73 above it, you have a pillar, a single pillar. It could be either a pole or a long stick that you would place where there is. You have to place it where there's no shadows. There's no shadow cast with trees. It has to be an opening, because you need this stick here, because you're going to see that when the sun rises, it's going to cast a shadow off the pole or stick or pillar that you place. And you see here that you determine the time of day it is based on where the shadow is cast during the course of the day or during the course of the season. This knowledge was known throughout the world. Our brothers who know about the point within the circle, they see it as a mere symbol. They don't make this connection. They don't know the astronomical connection of it. It's just, once again, a mere Masonic symbol. And I'm saying these are not symbols. These are emblematic of what's its function. So they've been relegated to an organizational symbol, and they're hoarding it, because they don't know the origin of it. So now let's continue. I talked about the sunstone circles. There are thousands of sunstone circles throughout the world, and there's 4 openings. And the 4 openings mark the 4 cardinal points or 4 seasons. Once again, the sign of the cross, all right, is emblematic of the 4 seasons, and this knowledge marking the spring, the summer, the fall, and winter. Why is that important, Abdullah? Great question. I didn't think you would ask. Once again, I said, you have to know what time it is so that you can know when the plant and when the harvest. Our survival depended on it. It's not something that we did for a hobby. It's not a hobby. It's a survival thing, not a hobby, not something to do. It's a survival thing. Knowing time kept you alive. Once again, knowing time kept the society alive, so that you can. That's in particularly in barren land. You have tropical area where fruit just growing. They don't know about farming in tropical areas. There's fruit just growing. All right, but there's areas where that's not the case. You have to know when to plant. You have to know when to harvest. So there were markers that placed, there's sunstone circles that were placed in areas so that you can see, all right, you can chart that, all right. The sun is close to this area of the stone, so summer's near. I'm just trying to break it down as simple as I can. I'm not trying to be out there with it, over people's heads. This has an everyday function in our lives. Because we're under European captivity, European subjugation, farming and agriculture is not, we go to the stores, so we're not farming. So I'm talking about where we were farming, dealing with agriculture, navigating ships, moving product. So this was part of our, Moors controlled the spice and silk trade. We built up tremendous wealth through the spice and silk trade in the 600s, 700s, 800s, 900s. Tremendous wealth. The Europeans took over the spice trade from the Moors. So the knowledge of charting the sun, charting the stars for a navigational purpose was huge among us. So I'm just explaining that these, what they call Masonic symbols, are not Masonic symbols. They have an astronomical and agricultural navigational function. Continuing. Now let's look at, in November, we got coming up in this month, in 3 weeks, we have what's called Thanksgiving. Now President Lincoln, through a presidential proclamation, shifted politically the celebration of the harvest, which it's only done politically because the harvest is the harvest. It's going to be, the piece of paper can't change the harvest. I mean, that's absurd. A presidential proclamation can't change the harvest. That's astronomical phenomenon that occurs, as far as the time of the harvest. The time of the harvest is determined by astronomical phenomenon, not by a presidential proclamation. The celebration, Lincoln was the one that, through a president's proclamation, that marked Thanksgiving as the third Thursday of November. Why the third Thursday? Why not the first Thursday? Why not the second Thursday? Why the third Thursday of November? I'm glad you asked that question. I didn't think you would ask. What occurs during that time period is the onset of the rising of Orion's belt. Orion is a pole star, a star of three sets of stars. Orion can be seen. Orion is known as the archer or guider. Because to find other stars, when you locate Orion, it leads you or points you. It's called also refers as the pointer, or used as the bow and arrow, or archer. All right, because Orion points you to other major stars. So what occurs in the onset of Orion is during that time period, the jet pillar, DJED, jet pillar, is emblematic of Orion. So Orion is on his back. So you have the jet pillar positioned this way, positioned vertically, horizontally and vertically. Orion on his back. So Orion is rising in the sky. Onset of Orion, third Thursday of November, around that time period, rising, all right, rising. December 24th, Orion and Sirius, the dog star, are aligned on December 24th. Yule tide day. So they have the Yule tide that burns throughout the night, December 24th. See that alignment? The Christmas star on the Christmas tree is Sirius, the dog star. Now you have January 1st, they say December 31st, and at New York, you have the ball that drops 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year's, January 1st. What's occurring? What occurs astronomically? The Sirius, the dog star, is it's midheaven. It's at the highest point in the sky, can be seen in most parts of the world. And you have this alignment of Orion, Taurus, and Pleiades. You'll see that alignment during that time period. So what we're calling European holidays are actually astronomical observance that we observed and charted thousands of years ago. And we had lavish celebrations. What the Europeans did was co-opted them and commercialized them. So now we want to just detach ourselves from it. That's not intelligent. It's not intelligent to give your stuff to the Europeans, to disattach yourself to the Europeans. They co-opted it. Because they commercialized it, doesn't mean you should detach yourself from it. That doesn't make sense. Because I take your car, steal your car, and be riding around for it, or I don't want the car anymore. No, you won't be thinking that way. So this is why I teach the astronomy of it. To say that it's our holiday, that means nothing. That's not going to get people to it. To say that they are our holidays will not connect people to it like that. You got to explain them. You got to explain how we use them. You got to explain how we charted them, how its function in our everyday life. They get people to it. Because today, like I said, a lot of people think they're European holidays. Those who do celebrate, like my mom. My mom celebrates Christmas. Well, she thinks she is right. But she thinks it is Jesus' birthday. She is right about that. My mom's right. My mom's 100% correct. So to say, when my mom says she's celebrating the birth of Jesus, my mom is 100% correct. But she thinks Jesus was a real man, blonde hair, blue eyes, or whether, if it's Asiatic. If you say Jesus looked like me, you're still wrong. I mean, don't substitute the European for me, because it's not that. Meaning, because you got people do that too. Let me clarify that too. Clarify that, because I'm going to get with these Afrocentric folks. Because the Afrocentric folks do this. They'll take the European image, they'll substitute the European image for an Asiatic image, someone that look like me. I'm saying that that's not the epistemology. The epistemology is the actual sun. So if the Afrocentric folks are not taking it to an epistemology, the actual sun, it's still misrepresentation. Because what? It still leads to worshiping. It's still leading to worshiping. Because so instead of worshiping a European image, you're now going to worship an image that look like me. It's still worshiping. I don't want them to worship at all. I don't even want them to worship an image that look like me. Because that's what's been done. This the Afrocentric folks, yes they do. Yes they do. They'll say, well, I'd rather them. No, I don't want them to worship an image at all. That's what I'm saying. No, I don't want that. I don't want them to worship images that look like me at all. I'm not even supporting that. I'm not even supporting that. Why? Because they're still not getting to the astronomy of it. All right. Let me explain the danger of that. If you substitute the European image for an image that looks like me, that can eventually lead to what? All you're doing, that can eventually lead to corruption where people begin to worship, and they can take advantage of that. But if you take them to the astronomy of it, then they have the math knowledge of it. Because they're not going to be empowered. If I'm worshiping an image that look like me, that's not empowering. How's that empowering? All I'm doing is substitute the European image over there like me. You're still enslaving the mind. You're not freeing the mind. You got to give them the math and science, because that's what we use. That's what it is. It's the actual sun. It's the sun. Jesus is the sun. It is the birth of Jesus. And once again, I-E, I-O, I-U, and I-A, Phoenician form, Chaldean form, Babylonian form, and Egyptian form, that they transliterated into J-E-S-U-S. It's the actual sun. It's the birth of the sun. And I explained the sun dies. Jesus does die on the cross. So when my mom says that Jesus died, dies, not died, because it's not just, it's dies on the cross. You use the S, you use the present tense for a statement of fact. So use the present tense, not past tense. It's an astronomical phenomenon that occurs every year. Jesus does die on the cross. December 21st, in the northern hemisphere, the sun is at its lowest point of declination. Its furthest southerly point of the horizon. It rises the lowest in the sky. It's the shortest day of the year. It is one of the pillars Boaz and Jachin, it's the Jachin side of the pillar in masonry. This knowledge is known. And I've said you had the crucified saviors. There's a book called by Percy Graves, the 16 crucified saviors. Percy Graves, 16 crucified saviors. He chronicles that the concept of the crucified savior was known throughout the world. It's the same story. The Europeans co-opted the story, an astronomical, phenomenal story, and co-opted it, and now control the story, and using European images. This is why people think it's European holidays. That's why. Because we were brought up seeing European images on these Christmas shows. All we see is European images. So we grow up, don't know, we ain't done no research at first. Haven't done research at first. And we go, they're European. And we become so-called Afrocentric. Not Afrocentric, so-called Afrocentric, like I thought I was. You say, well, see, that's European stuff. They're playing us, man. For us to walk away from our holidays, that's not empowering. That's disempowering. You're thinking that you are empowering yourself by not celebrating Christmas. You're not. You're not empowering yourself by not celebrating Christmas, by not celebrating Halloween, by not celebrating Groundhog Day, by not celebrating January 1st, by not celebrating Valentine's Day, by not celebrating Easter, by not celebrating July 4th. Those are astronomical markers that we observed and charted, having nothing to do with Europeans. It has to do with us in that meaning the astronomical phenomena are going to be is the phenomenon, is whether you chart it or not. I mean, it doesn't occur because you charted it. You're charting it to build your civilization. You're charting it to determine when to harvest and when to plant. Charting it doesn't make it. It already is there. You're just observing what's there. So we want to be very clear, once again about Thanksgiving, the time period. We talk about the time period. The time period of Thanksgiving. It is the onset of Orion's belt, the rising of Orion. That's the Jed pillar, D-J-E-D. This is ancient knowledge. And this is why I stay focused on this point. And I've learned, I've been doing this for years. What I've learned is sometimes you have to repeat points. You have to emphasize points so it can stick because of the indoctrination from childhood. Worshiping. This even European images. That's going to take. It may not take one look at this, because you have to purge. It's it's easier for me to teach children. Children who are not damaged. Children who are not damaged, who were not indoctrinated, will learn faster than adults. Because children don't have to purge. So people who are listening to me, they have to, for them to receive what I'm saying, they have to first purge. A 2-year-old child doesn't have to purge. 3-year-old child, they don't have to purge. So they don't have to process. They don't have to go through the mental processes of purging. They don't have to battle, European holiday, worshiping. They don't have to do that. But someone who's an adult, you have to do that. So it takes longer. You're twisting and turning in bed. I heard Abdullah Bey, and and Abdullah Bey don't know what he's talking about. You're saying that's still that whole Persian, and you can listen to me again. You got to go through that. I'm talking from experience. You ain't no different than me. You got to purge. It's easier for children to learn it. They don't have the purging process. That's why they get us at a young age. But no, they get us while we're in our mother's womb. That is power right there. They get a people. They first have the mother. So before you conceive, they already got you. You're got before you be conceived. Why? Because your mother. They can just sit back and chill, and you got. You got before you conceive. I ain't say born. Conceive, you got. They got your mother, they got you. Your mother's gonna have that fear and she's gonna be worshiping, that's gonna come right down to you. You see the power? The women are the key. The first school is not kindergarten. It's the womb. That's the first school. If you miss that, if we miss that as a society, we're lost. If you say the first grade, the first level of education that my child goes to is kindergarten, you already missed the boat. You already missed the boat because you missed 9 months. You missed that part, which is huge. This knowledge was proliferated in our communities. The Europeans, you have launched the Inca crusade against us in 1180. The Moors controlled Europe. We controlled many parts of Europe for almost 800 years, gradually losing control after the crusades, which was launched against us in 1080. There were knight orders established to fight against the Moors. Knights Templar, Knights of St. John to Jerusalem, later called the Knights of Hospitality, later called the Knights of Rose, now called the Knights of Malta, the Knights of Calatrava. The Order of Christ established was an extension of the Knights Templar, which is the Order of Christ was established as extension in 1319 in Portugal. We controlled the spice trade, which was made control when you had the Carthaginians who controlled the Iberian Peninsula over 2,000 years ago, controlled the spice trade. That spice trade which represented tremendous wealth and economic and political control. Because controlling the spice trade and silk trade, you were able to control price fixing and build up tremendous wealth. And they could control the seas and commerce. Marco Polo was not the one that established the route trade to India. The Moors controlled modern day India for 1,000 years. It was the Moors that set up trade routes and commerce and controlling the spice trade during the 600, 700, 900, 1,000. The Europeans launched the crusade against us, took control of the spice trade and silk trade from the Moors, and began to colonize Spain, which was Aragon and Castile. So the Moors fought against Aragon and Castile, Portugal, England, France. Aren't those the countries that had purported to transport 10 million Africans from the continent of Africa? Aren't those the European countries that colonized North, Central, South America? Who did they defeat? How did the Europeans come into world power and domination? By defeating the Moors. That is documented, is indisputable. For someone to dispute me, they have to show me evidence that I don't know what I'm talking about. Because I can show them evidence documentary evidence that that is the case. The Moors controlled the world. How did we control the world? Because we controlled the spice trade. That's how you control the world. They don't control the world by controlling one landmass. That means nothing. Huh? Control the world by controlling trade. You don't control the world by controlling some landmass. You gotta control trade. Controlling trade, you control the price fixing. Your coin, which is the Moorish meal, becomes the most powerful coin in the world. That's how we control the world. That's how we built up tremendous wealth. We had extensive silk trade with China. The Europeans came into world power and domination by taking control of the trade from the Moors. That is documented. On the cover, you see the Knights Templar use this cross, and there's churches that use this cross within the crown, this tilted cross within the crown, and they'll have, he's reading, "In hoc signo vinces," in this sign we conquer. Now that's a lie. What do you mean, Abdullah? That's a lie. The Europeans did conquer and sign the cross. No, they didn't. That's a lie. All right. Now let me explain what I mean by that. There are hundreds of European scholars as well as Asiatic scholars who will use the titles. They'll use in the variation of the titles the cross versus the crescent and the star. You'll see that. You'll see that. You say, well, the Christians versus the Muslims. They'll have what they call the Christians with the cross, and they'll have what they call the Muslims with the crescent and the star. You'll see that. You'll see Europeans who paint paintings on covers, and they'll have they call the Muslims or the Arabs with the crescent and the star, and they have other side that have what they call the Christians with the cross. So that's I don't subscribe to that paradigm. That there's hundreds of authors who are like sheep, herded like sheep, and they subscribe to that paradigm. The cross versus the crescent and the star. That's a false epistemology. Let me explain. The cross, you have what's called the Southern Cross in the sky, which is a constellation of 5 stars called the Southern Cross. Look it up. Then you also have the cross, the Tau, which is the diameter. The diameter with notches on it. I have a picture of it. The diameter. It's placed in a shaft on page 173. Page 173. That's a tau, which is the diameter. And this is in Egypt, in Cairo, Egypt. You see, this is the Rhoda in central Cairo. Let me read this here. The cross is an ancient Egyptian water measurement device, 5,000-year-old. This is the name of the article. The 5,000-year-old tradition of the diameter, Nilometer, water measurement device from pharaonic times. Diameter is located on the island of Elephantine in Aswan. Diameter, ancient structures used to measure the level of River Nile by Kushik. Every year, the River Nile begins to rise in the summer. The water overflows its banks and deposits silt on the surrounding floodplain. It is this annual flood that makes the land fertile, allowing it to be cultivated and civilization to exist. Since the ancient times, the Egyptians depended on the Nile's flood and its regular return for their substance. But the flood was unpredictable. While a moderate inundation was a vital part of the agricultural cycle, too much flood was disastrous, as it washed away crops and much of its infrastructure built on the flood plain. If the river failed to rise, it caused drought and famine. The flood also played an important political and administrative role, since the quality of the year's harvest was used to determine the amount of tax to be paid. The Egyptians therefore began measuring the Nile's water level in order to predict the harvest. Reread this. The Egyptians therefore began measuring the Nile's water level in order to predict the harvest. Here you go. But I'm wearing them on my neck. But I wear this on my neck because I know what it is. It's not a symbol of worship to me. I don't worship. Bow to it and all that. This is my ancestors. I'm wearing this in honor of my ancestors. This is the diameter. All right? I wear this with knowledge. Now you have the Ankh, which is a loop above this. Place a loop above it. And that loop above it representing the renewal of life. So the loop representing the tau, this is the measurement tool, the diameter. The loop above it representing a replenishing or renewal of life to the Nile River, the Nile Valley. Because you have, the cycle, it floods, all right? Then you just, you represent replenishing, the renewal of life, renewal of plant life, renewal of agriculture, all right? So, what's the difference between the Ankh and the cross? There isn't. Is that the Ankh has the oval shape representing the renewal of life. So you have the tau, which is the measurement tool, and then you just place the oval above it, this representing what occurs, giving honor to renewal of the plant life in the Nile Valley. None of it's European. So now you have the crescent moon, and the five-pointed star. Now my next book, which is actually what I'm about to talk now, is actually chapter 3 of this book. What I decided to do was take out chapter 3 of this book, which deals with Venus and the moon. The calendar, the cycles of Venus, the moon calendar, cycles of the moon, its cultural representation. I took it out of this book and made it a separate book, which will be out in about 2 months. And deals with, because it was actually part of this book. It was actually chapter 3. It was 65 pages of this book, and I'm going to reduce it to an 8.5 by 5.5 book size. It's going to be a smaller book, so it's going to be over about 100 pages. It's already done. I mean, as far as I just has to be edited. All right. So, in order for me to explain the false paradigm, I got to clear up the false paradigm of the cross versus the crescent and star. I got explaining the astronomical function of them. The crescent and the star. You have the crescent moon, which represents the lunar calendar or moon calendar, and then you have the five-pointed star. The five-pointed star represents 584-day cycles of Venus. The five-pointed star that's in the Moorish flag, that's in the Malaysian flag, that's in the Chinese flag, and that's in other flags, represents Venus. 584-day cycles of Venus. Let me explain. Every 500, there's 263 days where Venus is the morning star. It can be seen, the Venus is a bright planet. It's called the morning star. It's a very bright planet. And it can be seen in the morning during March and April. There's 263 days where it's called the morning star. The torch is referred to as Lucifer, Phosphorus, or the torchbearer. Lucifer, which means light bearer. Phosphorus in Greek, which means light bearer, or the torchbearer. Because being as the morning star, it's very bright, and it was also used for agricultural purposes and timing. There's 50 days where Venus is invisible. There's another 263 days where Venus is the evening star. And there's 8 other days where it's invisible. That's 584 days. There's 8 years you have your Venus and Earth conjunction. It forms the 5-pointed star in the sky, going through those 5 cycles in an 8-year period. So you also have the 8-pointed star that's in the Sumerian clay tablet. The 8-pointed star represents 8 years, 8 Earth years, where it takes Venus to form that 5-pointed star in the sky. So you have 584 days where it's between the sun and Earth. All right, so you have 1 point. So we have 584 days. 584 days later, another point. 584 days later, another point. 540 days later, another point. 540 days later, another point. So how can you use a paradigm to say that the cross versus the crescent of the star? Once you know its origin and true meaning, that's a misrepresentation. You got the Southern Cross, which is a 5-pointed constellation of 5 stars. I explained it being used as the diameter. The 5-pointed star is on coins that you see the 5-pointed star by itself, or crescent of the star, on many coins. Some coins are 500 years old. There's coins that are 1,000 years old. Some coins are 2,000 years old. And you see these coins that's used throughout the world. So see what they're doing? Misrepresentation. This versus. So they've taken that which is ancient and universal, that has an astronomical function, dealing with the astronomical cycle of Venus, and presenting as a mere symbol. Well, this is Muslim. The crescent star is Muslim. The cross is Christian. It's misrepresentation. And there are thousands of authors who are like sheep. I'm not part of those thousands of authors. I'm not a sheep like those 1,000 authors. And they're going with the same paradigm, false epistemology. Same with that cross versus crescent of the star. Once you know its origin, this is why I stay focused on the astronomy. You got to give people the math and the science of it. Venus, the heliacal rising of Venus, which occurs in March, it brings about the onset of rain for vegetation to grow. The word Easter is the name for Venus, the planet Venus. Easter, Esther, Ishtar, Astareth, Astarte. The names of Venus. Easter, what they done was replaced a female, because Venus was personified as a female because of its agricultural tie, with a male. Easter is the name for Venus. Why are they showing the male? It's called the heliacal rising of Venus, which brings about the onset of rain. The Mayan civilization. The Mayan there's a Mayan calendar that's tied to the cycles of Venus. The Germans stole it in 1717, and it's been in the Royal Museum in Dresden, Germany since 1717. And so this is one of the surviving Mayan calendars that charted the cycles of Venus. This was not something that we worshipped. So I'm saying this is a knowledge base that we use for our survival. We're charting the cycles of Venus so that we can predict the onset of rain for our vegetation to grow. You gotta know, all right, well, I gotta start planning, all right, because onset of Venus is coming, all right, it's gonna be raining. That's a knowledge base. Where's the worshiping coming with that? I mean, you want to have celebrations. You have celebration because you got a good harvest and fine, but where's the worship? That's a knowledge base. You see what they done? They got us relegated to idol hypnosis. A term that I made that up. Idol hypnosis. So we're under idol hypnosis. Idol image. Idol, I-D-O-L means image. We're under idol or image hypnosis, where we lack the knowledge of the astronomical origin and function of these, what they're calling images and symbols, but they're not that. So this is why I go into that with this upcoming book, how Venus and Moon, how the Venus and Moon rules. How the Venus and Moon rules. I go into the cultural aspect of it. All right, so to get the Masonic Compass and Square and the connection to measurement and timekeeping, go to moorsandmasonry.org, M-O-O-R-S, the word and, masonry, MASONRY.org. Go to moorsandmasonry.org. I want to thank you for, I trust that you will elevate your mind and come out of idle hypnosis. The purpose is to have people come out of idle hypnosis. All right? And more so to develop is to create social harmony through a proper presentation of masonry and religion. Create social harmony through a proper presentation of masonry and religion. Masonry and religion is one and the same. All right, through masonry and religion. This harmony has been fostered through misrepresentation of masonry and religion. So we have to reverse the polarity. On that, I'll end. Thank you. Peace. Yeah, peace. I'm Abdullah El Talib Mosi Bey on House of Tunes HD. Thank you for tuning in.